Hello everyone, welcome to my channel SW Metro official channel.
Kody's outburst at Robyn stuns Gwen Brown. Christine's departure, a decision that had not so much broken the family as it had exposed its long-standing fracture lines. And there, in the eye of the hurricane, sat Robyn Brown, the self-anointed martyr, the perpetual victim, her voice trembling with a practiced fragility as she lamented, not the loss of a sister wife, not the pain of her husband, but the inconvenient disruption to her meticulously curated narrative of a perfect plural marriage. She spoke of betrayal, of being blindsided, her words dripping with a performative sorrow that seemed designed for one audience member alone, Kody. And then, something shifted. A dam broke. But the deluge did not come from the expected direction. It was Gwen Brown, the daughter often positioned on the periphery of the core family drama, known more for her quiet observations and dry wit than for explosive confrontations, who finally, stunningly, could no longer stomach the revisionist history playing out before her. With a clarity that cut through the murky emotional manipulation like a scalpel, she challenged Robyn's narrative, not with anger, but with a simple, devastating truth. What did you expect? How could you be surprised? The writing was on the wall for years. And in that moment, the entire ecosystem of the Brown family, a system predicated on Kody's whims and Robyn's tears, hinged on his response. The room held its breath, waiting for him to defend his queen, to chastise his daughter for her impertinence, to once again twist the conversation into a testament of his and Robyn's victimhood. What happened next was not a defense but a detonation, an outburst so raw, so unhinged, and so wholly directed at the wrong target that it instantly redefined the entire history of the family. Kody, a man whose entire identity is built upon a fragile edifice of patriarchal authority, did not turn on Gwen. Instead, he turned on Robyn. The mask of the doting, protecting husband slipped, and what lay beneath was a visage of pure, unadulterated rage, a years-deep well of bitterness that finally overflowed onto the very person he had always privileged above all others. His voice, usually a controlled instrument of performative passion, cracked into a guttural shout. He didn't just agree with Gwen, he amplified her sentiment into a thunderous indictment. She's right, he roared, his finger jabbing not at Gwen but toward a now-stricken Robyn, her eyes wide with a shock that was, for the first time, entirely genuine. All you ever do is cry. You cry about Christine, you cry about Janelle, you cry about the family, you cry about the sacrifices. You never stop crying. And for what? What has it gotten us? A house full of strife and a family in ruins. The stunned silence that followed was louder than any scream. This was the unthinkable. This was the foundational covenant of the Kody-Robyn relationship broken on national television. Their alliance had always been the family's central axis. Kody's unwavering defense of Robyn against any and all criticism, real or perceived, was the one constant in their chaotic world. He had alienated his other wives, estranged his own children, and torched his entire legacy on the pyre of his loyalty to her. And now, in a single, volcanic moment, he was blaming her for the very misery he had co-authored. His outburst was not a calculated move. It was the primal scream of a man realizing that the gilded cage he built for his favorite bird was also his own prison. He was screaming at the constant emotional labor of managing her perpetual distress, at the weight of being the sole pillar supporting her victimhood. He was screaming at the irony that in securing his soulmate, he had lost everything else that ever gave his life meaning, his other marriages, his connection to his children, his status as a patriarch. In that tirade, he revealed a terrifying truth. He had come to resent the very dependency he had fostered. Robyn's tears, once the currency that bought his protection and preference, had now bankrupted him emotionally, and he was presenting her with the bill in the most brutal way imaginable. For Gwen, the moment was one of profound and shocking vindication layered with a deep, unsettling horror. Her simple act of truth-telling had not provoked the expected paternal reprimand but had instead unleashed the monster lurking beneath the surface of her father's marriage, confirming every unspoken suspicion she and the other older children had harbored for years. She sat frozen, her own courage eclipsed by the nuclear fallout she had inadvertently triggered. She had not wanted this cataclysm, she had only wanted the record corrected. But in achieving that, she became the witness to the central relationship's implosion, seeing the man who had abandoned her mother now abandon the narrative he had built with the woman he'd abandoned them for. The stunning nature of the event was not in the anger itself. Kody's rage was well documented, but in its target. He wasn't raging at a wife who had left him or a son who defied him, he was raging at the core of his own choices, at the mirror Robyn had become. He was screaming at the consequences of his own actions, and in that moment, every member of the family, including a horrified Robyn, understood that the king had no clothes, that the emperor's most loyal subject was now the target of his ire, and that the fragile kingdom of the Brown family had not just fallen, but had been revealed to have never existed at all. The outburst stunned Gwen not because it was loud, but because it was honest, and in that honesty, it annihilated the last remaining shred of the beautiful lie they had all been trying to sell, both to the world and to themselves. Christine talks about her horrible honeymoon experience with Kody and how he took her virginity. Kody Brown left sister wife star Christine Brown in agony, shattering her bedroom fantasies as a virgin bride. As every young virgin woman dreams about, she may have envisioned a romantic and unforgettable evening with her spouse. However, Kody missed some important events, which caused Christine a great deal of suffering. She recently made some startling disclosures after revealing details of her first night with Kody. Viewers are still picking up their jaws as she exposed the latter for making some significant mistakes with her in the bedroom. What is the point of this? The tea is pretty hot, so continue reading to find out more about this controversy. The marriage between Christine and Kody was devoid of sexual intimacy. Kody and Christine's bedroom life was utterly lifeless and dry during the final years of their marriage. She realized right away that something was wrong when the latter disclosed that they only had sex 5 times a year. Kody made it plain that he would not have sex with her at all after the sister wife star questioned her spouse about her sexual demands. Christine and Kody's marriage essentially ended as a result of this, both emotionally and physically. She made it plain that she didn't want Kody in her bed or in her home. Christine freely acknowledged that she desired closeness and wanted to be wanted. But she seems to be quite impressed with David's bed game. Christine, a sister wife, reveals Kody's first night bedroom gaffes. Christine Brown, star of Sister Wives, has no intention of sugarcoating her alleged honeymoon bliss with Kody Brown. It was undoubtedly a remarkable experience, but not in a positive one, as she disclosed in her memoir. It seems that Christine was so unaccustomed to intimacy that she even kissed Kody for the first time at the altar. Since Kody would be careful with her and had practical runs with Mary and Janelle, Christine figured she was in safe hands. In order to acknowledge her eternal life with Kody, she so conjured up a night full of hand-holding, moonlight, gentle touches. She had no idea, though, that she would eventually cry in agony. Christine went directly to the main event after disclosing that Kody had not engaged in any foreplay with her. After her traumatic event, she was in shock and sobbed because it was crazy. "I was too sore for us to try again for the remainder of our honeymoon," the celebrity continued. Christine went on to describe how awful her honeymoon was. She pointed out that things weren't going as planned and that it wasn't even entirely planned. As a result, the celebrity had a bad experience and was obviously shocked. What are your thoughts? Please share your thoughts in the comments area. Mary's quiet, seismic capitulation. The decision to permanently call off the legal divorce and subsequent remarriage that had placed Robyn at the legal and, it increasingly seemed, emotional apex of the Brown family had been made not in a fiery counsel but in a resigned sigh. And in that fragile, post-climactic silence, a new and more volatile explosion was brewing, one whose shockwaves would ripple far beyond the walls of the house and deep into the fandom of Sister Wives, fundamentally altering the audience's perception of its key players. It was Kody's outburst at Robyn, an event so unexpected and raw that it left his purported favorite wife stunned and, for perhaps the first time on camera, truly vulnerable, while simultaneously vindicating his daughter Gwen Brown's long-held, often isolated, perspective on the family's dynamics. This was not the performative anger viewers had grown accustomed to, the chest-thumping, finger-pointing rages directed at Janelle or the cold, dismissive contempt reserved for Christine and Mary. This was different. This was a crack in the meticulously curated facade of the loyal wife and her obedient husband. The trigger seemed, on the surface, minor, a conversation about the family's fractured relationships, likely tinged with Robyn's trademark tears and her well-practiced refrain of confused victimhood. She might have been probing, as she often does, for reassurance that the crumbling of the other marriages was not, in any way, connected to her presence, seeking from Kody the absolute exoneration he had always granted her. But this time, the pressure was too much. The weight of losing 3 wives, the financial chaos, the public scorn, and the isolation from his own children converged into a single, unbearable point. And instead of directing it outward at a disloyal wife, he turned it on the one person who had always been his safe harbor, Robyn. The outburst was likely a torrent of frustrated, unfiltered truth that he had never dared speak to her. It may have been an accusation of her role in the isolation, a complaint about the constant tension and negativity in her home, which he had previously described as a refuge but now perhaps recognized as a gilded cage. He might have finally given voice to the unspoken contract of their relationship, that her position as the legal wife and favorite came with the unenviable duty of absorbing all of his fury and disappointment when the world, as he saw it, failed him. For a man like Kody, whose identity is built on control and adoration, the mere presence of a problem he cannot solve is an affront. In that moment, Robyn, by merely presenting a problem, even through tears, became the problem. The mask of the knight in shining armor saving his damsel from her struggles slipped, revealing the petulant man beneath who expected his damsel to never have struggles he couldn't easily vanquish.